All right, welcome to your ultimate exam survival speed run for ASP.NET Units 4 and 5. Look, if you've missed some classes, or maybe felt totally overwhelmed by the textbook, or honestly, you just have super limited study time, you are in the exact right place. We are completely ditching the textbook fluff right now. We're going to get straight to the core concepts, the definitions, and the cold hard facts you absolutely need to pass this exam.
So here's our game plan for this explainer. We're hitting ADO.NET Basics, ADO.NET Classes and Flows, Data Controls and Binding, Master Pages, Themes, and CSS, and we'll wrap it all up with a rapid revision quiz.
Section 1. ADO Basics.
Okay, listen closely. If you remember literally one single thing about Unit 4 for this exam, make it this golden rule. ADO.NET equals database access, period. It's basically Microsoft's technology for wiring your app up to a relational database, running queries, and managing that data. So whenever you see ADO.NET pop up on a test question, boom, immediately think database access.
Now, exactly how we access that data brings us to a massive, guaranteed exam topic, connected versus disconnected architecture. You're definitely going to see this. Connected architecture keeps the live connection to your database wide open the entire time you're reading data. It's incredibly fast, yeah, but it absolutely hogs database resources. Disconnected architecture does the exact opposite. It swoops in, quickly grabs the data, immediately slams the connection shut, and then lets your app work with an offline in-memory copy. When you're all done making your tweaks, it just briefly reconnects to save them. Simple as that.
Moving on to Section 2, ADO.NET Classes and Flows.
All right, let's map out the connected flow. You need to memorize this exact pipeline. Step 1, you create a SQL connection. Think of that as the actual physical wire connecting to your database. Step 2, you use a SQL command, which literally holds the SQL query you want to run. And finally, Step 3, you execute that command and read the results live using a SqlDataReader. Remember, the SqlDataReader is your absolute best friend here. It's a super fast, forward-only, read-only stream of data.
Now, for the disconnected flow, the pipeline changes up a bit, and this is exactly where students tend to get tripped up. You still start with that SQL connection, but next, you bring in the SqlDataAdapter. This adapter acts like a bridge. It pulls the data straight across the connection and dumps it into either a dataset or a DataTable, which, by the way, are just made up of data rows and data columns. Once that data is safely tucked away in the dataset, the connection is instantly closed and your app just works completely offline.
So how does the SQL command actually execute your queries? Well, it has three main attack moves, and you absolutely must know which method pairs with which SQL action. You'll use ExecuteNonQuery when you're doing an insert, update, or delete, because it just returns the number of rows affected. Use ExecuteReader when you need to actually read rows of data from a select statement. And you use ExecuteScalar when you just need one single solitary value returned. Think like a count or a sum.
Okay, I literally cannot stress this next point enough. If an exam question asks how to secure your database from hackers trying to type malicious SQL code into your web forms, the answer is always parameterized queries. Using SPAR parameter objects basically forces user input to be treated strictly as safe data, which completely neutralizes any SQL injection attacks. Do not forget that.
Let's do some rapid-fire definitions for that disconnected architecture. First up, the SqlDataAdapter. Like I said, it's the bridge. Really, just think of it as a delivery truck. It uses the fill method to drive data from the database right into your offline cache, and then it uses the update method to drive your offline changes right back to the live database.
And where exactly does that delivery truck drop off all that data? Right into the dataset. Your dataset is essentially your offline warehouse. It's completely disconnected from the live database, but it acts exactly like a mini relational database all on its own. It holds your data tables, data rows, data columns, and even data relationships, which is what lets your app keep humming along seamlessly offline. Rounding out the disconnected flow, we have the DataView. I like to think of a DataView as a cool pair of customized sunglasses. You put them on to filter, sort, and search the info inside your data table exactly how you want to see it, all without actually changing the underlying data itself. You can literally have multiple data views looking at the exact same data table in totally different ways. Pretty cool, right?
Section 3. Data Controls and Binding.
All right, once we've got our data, we got to show it. You definitely need to know the difference between these three controls: the GridView,
That's your heavy-duty tabular HTML table, complete with built-in features for sorting, editing, and deleting. The repeater, on the other hand, is super lightweight. It gives you complete, absolute freedom over the HTML markup using templates. It just renders exactly what you tell it to. And the SqlDataSource? That one's brilliant because it lets you connect a control directly to a database declaratively. That means you just use markup. Zero C# code behind required.
Now, when you're binding data into those controls, you're going to use two key expressions. Write this down for the exam. Seriously. Eval is strictly one-way data binding. It is read-only. Bind, however, is two-way data binding. That means bind can display the data, sure, but it can also take user edits and send them right back to the database. So remember, eval is just for reading, bind is for editing.
Moving into Unit 5, Section 4, Master Pages.
Here is our next crucial memory anchor. A master page equals structure. Think about it, before master pages, if you wanted a standard header and footer on 50 different web pages, you had to write that exact same code 50 times. Gross, right? A master page, which has a .masterfile extension, solves this completely by defining one consistent layout that could be shared across your whole website. You can even create nested master pages, sticking one inside another for really complex site layouts.
And here's how that actually works in practice. Inside your structural master page, you leave these empty puzzle slots. We call those content placeholder controls. Then, you build your individual content pages, and you link them back to that structure using the MasterPageFile attribute. Those content pages use ASP-content tags to hold their unique page-specific info, and it just slides perfectly into those empty puzzle slots. It makes updating your site's overall layout incredibly fast and totally bug-free.
Section 5. Themes and CSS. Structure's great, but things also need to look good. So lock in this equation for Unit 5. Themes equal appearance. A theme is simply a collection of visual rules that give your web app a nice, consistent look. And this is super important for multiple choice questions. All of these theme files get bundled together into a specific, dedicated folder called the app_themes folder. Let's see how this all builds into a complete design system, because you do not want to get tricked by the terminology here. A skin file is used specifically to style ASP.NET Server controls, like, say, making every single grid view look identical. CSS, or cascading style sheets, handles your standard underlying HTML layout. And the theme? That's the global package that bundles your skins and your CSS together so you can apply them cleanly across your entire web app. See? They don't replace each other. They're a team.
Section 6, the Rapid Revision Quiz.
All right, you've learned the facts. Now let's test those reflexes. I highly recommend pausing the explainer right here and testing yourself against these questions. Ready? What is ADO.NET? It's database access. What flow uses the data reader? The connected flow. What acts as the bridge in a disconnected flow? The DataAdapter. What method returns a single value? ExecuteScalar. What stops SQL injection? Parameterized Queries. What provides site layout structure? The master page. And where does unique content go? Into the content placeholder. Honestly, if you can answer these automatically, you are in great shape.
And here is the second half of your rapid-fire revision. Remember, eval is one-way binding, while bind is two-way. The repeater gives you total HTML control. The master file extension is .master. Themes are global appearance packages sitting in the app_themes folder, while skins specifically target those ASP.NET controls. Master these definitions, and you're going to absolutely crush this exam. As you wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with this thought. Once you master these foundational concepts of front-end structure and back-end data in ASP.NET, how might you use these exact same principles to learn modern frameworks like React or Blazor? Because trust me, the concepts are universal. Good luck studying. You've totally got this.